marks, the on the back of the Sphinx, they said it was created by sand blowing on it from centuries and centuries and centuries. The last report is they came to conclusion, no, the Sphinx was under water. It was under like in the ocean. And that's how the wear marks of the Sphinx was created. Well, that would put it pre-man. So I got a funny feeling maybe we've been rebooted. Maybe something happened to the Earth and then, we got rebooted. So maybe our DNA is alien. Maybe we are from Mars. Who knows our genetics?
Hey, it wouldn't surprise me. I just recently put out a book called The Healing Power of UFOs. It documents about 300 cases of people who've been physically healed. And this one case I keep coming back to, I just find it really interesting. It occurred in Gainesville, Florida. There's a Jim Law, I believe, and he had visitations by Greys many times throughout life, and had this visitation where they came and they were about to, abduct him, basically. And by this time, he's pretty not relaxed with it, but certainly not panicking like he used to. And was conversing with him. He's like, "Hey, if you guys are going to take me, heal this hernia I have here." He had a hernia, right? And they said to him, "We are aware of your problem and we will fix it." And they put something up against his side, and sure enough, they fixed it. And he's like, "Wow," wasn't really expecting it to work, and kept talking to them and asked them at one point, "Why are you contacting me?" And they told him the answer, and I thought it was really interesting. They said, "We are interested in your ability to live a long life." It turned out that at that time, Jim was writing this book about his grandfather, who was 106 years old and still kicking.
106, wow.
Right? And there's a lot of cases that I've run into where people feel like their life has been extended, or they look younger, they feel stronger, they've had what they call an upgrade. They don't get sick, their cuts heal faster, and blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on because, of the ETs and their ET contact. So they do be interested in getting us to live longer.
I've always wondered about that because, it's funny. Years ago, I took a break from radio for 16 years. I just got burned out. And I managed a chain of professional camera stores. And one of our reps was like 85 years old. And he was like 6'2". And he would come in, and I swear to God, I think he was 86, maybe, matter of fact. And I'd be talking to him. And, he would say, "Oh, I was out working in my garden." And I said, "Well, how big is your garden?" He goes, "A half acre." I'm like, "Okay." And then he goes, "Yeah." He goes, I'm getting ready for, this. I bought new skis for this, ski season. And I said, "What, water skiing?" He goes, "No, snow skiing." I said, "You still snow skiing?" He goes, "Yeah." And then we, about a month later, he comes into our business, right, doing his sales call. Instead of driving his car, he's riding a Harley. 86 years old or 85, whatever it was. Still riding a Harley, still going snow skiing, all this stuff. And you look at him, and he didn't look quite his age, but I mean, he walked like somebody maybe in their 30s or 40s. I mean, and then I was talking to him, I said, "Well, have you ever been really sick?" And he goes, "No." I mean, this perfect genetics of anybody I've ever seen.
Yeah, it's really remarkable when you look back in history, because it wasn't like that. And we've got pretty good records in terms of lifespan going back, but it did not reach the levels we're reaching today. So there does seem to be some sort of upgrade going on, whether it's, we've learned more about health and this sort of thing, or if it's actual outside influence. And I tend towards outside influence because if you look back to, ancient writings and certainly the fossil record, there's been these weird jumps and sort of missing gaps, and it's very well known in terms of humanity and how we've evolved that we have missing links. So there's very possible that Cro-Magnon and Neanderthals and all of that were being manipulated way back then, and that's certainly what the ETs told, like Jim Sparks, that they've been following his family line basically all the way back to caveman times.
Oh, wow. So basically, they're doing like what that one guy did. It would go out and tag animals, and years ago, I can't remember that TV show he did, but he would tag animals and see how long they lived, what their life, what they did, and all that stuff. I'm wondering too if people are being implanted like that, and that's how they're monitoring them.
I think implants are probably a lot more common than we realize. I'm going to say, gosh, a quarter of the people I've interviewed, maybe not quite that many, who have had repeated onboard UFO experiences, at one point visit the doctor, and the doctor's like, you have an object in your sinus, or, what's this? You've got this scar tissue, or, what's this on your abdomen? That looks like a laser scar. And it just goes on and on. Most recently, this was just last year, I was contacted by a lady from the Midwest and her teenage son who went to the dentist, the son did, and got an x-ray, and lo and behold, there's this thing in his mouth. It's a giant metal sphere. Not giant, but like BB size maybe, larger than a BB. The first thing the dentist asked the kid is like, did you shoot yourself in the mouth? Even though it was a ridiculous explanation, because how would that fit? This object was right under his back molar. There was no entry wound. The molar was fine. And no, the kid did not shoot himself in the mouth. He denied it, as the mother did. They have no history of that. They do have a UFO history, though. I had to kind of drag it out of them because they were pretty reluctant and not completely aware of what was going on, and didn't want to accept that this, might be an implant. But they kind of found me because they had no other choice. The son had a very close-up UFO sighting, and that's when this thing appeared. I've got the X-rays that show this implant, and I showed it to a couple of doctors, and both were like, that looks, did this person shoot themselves in the mouth with a BB? I'm like, well, no, look at it. It's larger than a BB. And no, he didn't. And yes, it's, almost twice the size of, a BB gun. It looks more like a marble, I guess. And so they're very concerned, obviously, and recently had a series of encounters, one with grays and another with mantids, which was literally just, 3 months ago. So I think a lot of people have these implants that don't even know it, and I'm not sure that they're necessarily for a bad thing, because while I don't hear this a lot, I've heard it at least 3 times and read it just as much, that the purpose of the implants usually has something to do with monitoring health. That's what one lady was told. Another lady said the ETs told her that it is to boost your immune system. Another was told it was to measure the levels of pollution in your body. So I think there are good reasons, and it's not necessarily, like mind control or tracking, or perhaps not only that. Hard to say. I know some people have had their implants removed. I mean, I got one case in the book, Inside UFOs, where the guy had his implant removed, and the Greys abducted him the next day and said, "This is ridiculous." This is actually what they told him. "This is ridiculous. This is the 3rd time or something you've lost your implant. This can't keep happening." And he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry, He had this boil on his face, and he was going to have it removed because it was bothering him. And they're like, "No, that's an implant." And he's like, "Oh, well, no, I won't have it removed then." And they said, "No, we've already taken it out, and we're going to put another one in you where you will never find it," is what they told him.
That is interesting.
Yeah, I've had several cases where someone has an implant. I mean, remember Dr. Lear?
Oh, yeah.
He removed all those implants.
Well, I was going to say, I had Timothy Cullen on my show several times. I think he was number 12 or 13th implant removal patient.
Yes. So one of the ladies I interviewed, she went to Dr. Lear and had her implant removed, and the ETs came back, I think it was next week, and re-implanted her. So that's
I wouldn't doubt that. Well,
so, I mean, they're obviously not using it for tracking then. If the implant is gone, how did they find her?
That's the interesting part. But you know what? Timothy Cullen, what I got out of him the last time he was on my show is, that he had the implant removed. Okay, he described what it looked like. It was kind of had a silver, You know, it was made out of silver, but it could not have been compounded on Earth. There was no way when it was analyzed. And they have no idea what it was for. But it's funny, after it was removed, about a month later, he was, you know, driving, him and his wife were driving, I guess, to the store. They stopped, they looked to the right, they saw a UFO.
Well, here we go.
And, you know, I said, Timothy, did you ever go back and see if you had another, you know, implant? And he goes, no. I said, did you ever think about it? And he goes, no, I didn't want to. So but the thing is, here it is, he gets it removed a month later, you know, he sees another UFO, you know, and kind of like lost maybe a little bit of time. Maybe he was implanted again.
Hey, wouldn't surprise me. I think, yeah, it's probably pretty common. I'm not super worried about it, but gosh, you know, we're it's such a cutting edge in this field, and we're just beginning to really get into it. You know, those implants Dr. Lear was removing, there we had the smoking gun, and the poor guy passed away, and no one has really taken up the torch, you know, and run with it. We should really be throwing a lot more money and time and attention into this phenomena, because there's the proof we need. We already have the proof. Gosh, it's such a strange situation with the government sitting on all of this. I've been contacted by a number of people who are whistleblowers. One guy was literally on his deathbed in a hospital and was like so happy to have found me. He's like, man, I worked at Edwards Air Force Base and saw this UFO. He says it was actually in there in a hangar, floating. He turns to his employer. He was a subcontractor and said, what is that? And his employer wouldn't answer and didn't answer for, 20 years until his employer called back again and said, you know, I need your services. And the guy interviews like, well, no, I'm not helping you unless you tell me what we saw back then. And he says, fine, it was reverse engineered from alien technology, and it's what you would call a flying saucer, but it was ours. So,
yeah. And I think we got more than one, too, because, you know, there was a report. I remember my friend, Art Bell, had on his show a ex-general from the South African military special forces, where they went out with their helicopter on a report of a crash. They thought it was a plane, and they got there, and it was a UFO. But supposedly the story was that the U.S. government came and got it.
Yeah, you know, thank God we've got some researchers who are really working hard on disclosure, starting, you know, with early on, the Larry Fawcett and his book, The UFO Cover-Up, it was called. It's been republished a couple of times, but really kind of broke this open. Stephen Greer did a lot of work with disclosure right now. We've got Steve Bassett doing some incredible work. I'm really excited about what we're going to see up ahead. There was that recent Pentagon disclosure, which was really tiny in comparison to what we actually have. But God bless it, it was actual movement, you know, which we hadn't had from an official capacity at all. So I'm thinking down the road, we're going to be seeing stuff coming out from governmental sources. Don't know if the U.S. is going to be the one to disclose, but someone is. And in my opinion, they're going to have to do it, this Gary, if they really want to remain in control of the situation. Who's ever, you know, got this UFO hardware, who's ever got the proof, if they don't release it, someone else will. It's going to come from another source if they don't do it.
No, probably Russia. I hate to say it.
Someone's going to do it. You know, I just can't see it. We're like bursting at the seams here. I think we're really itching to have, you know, towards open official contact, because like that, the timeline we're looking at in terms of destroying our planet looks like it's getting closer and closer, as you know we talked about earlier. So that might just drive this whole thing into a really incredible scenario where it all comes busted out all at once at any moment.
Sometimes I think what's happening in Washington, D.C. right now is to take our minds off of, you know, maybe disclosure and other things that's going on and have us focus on something else. I don't know. It's just kind of strange things that's going on. Look what happened off the Nimitz back 2 years ago. where the two fighter pilots, saw an object and tried chasing with it and couldn't even catch it with their afterburners on. And then